Let's get in touch with, or let me introduce A Vaidheesh, a very dear friend of mine. He's got a deep understanding of how the pharma business works, why is there so much of excitement in the API space, and which are the businesses which have got permanently re-rated because of COVID. Vaidheesh, good morning. Thank you for joining us. There is a sudden excitement about companies which have presence in the pharma space, in the API space. Is the excitement misplaced or justified?
Well, Nikunj, first and foremost, good morning to everyone. And what you are seeing today, particularly during this COVID time, I think every company is reevaluating their portfolio, and in particularly looking at their investment in where there's a big opportunity. If you really ask me, API, intermediates, key materials, these are all time-tested business model. At a point of time, it lost its relevance in India. And now it's showing up because primarily driven by China. And I do see we are at the early stage of the run-up. It's a huge opportunity and every company is lining up. And I don't think it's just a flash in the pan, it's just a trend. You're going to see a big, tailwind happening, and it's a great opportunity.
Okay. Why there is a sudden interest? Is it because of the China One policy that Indian pharma companies Indian API companies are in a sweet spot? Because if the China One policy was at play, for most of the active pharma ingredients, the dependence of raw materials still there on China.
Yeah, well, as you know, that more than 80% various components, including intermediates and also to API, many of our formulation depend on China. What I'm saying is that it's a trend, right? We need to shift from 80% to 70% to 60%. It shows such a huge opportunity. So I don't think that we should call it as just a flash. Because also remember, there's a lot of environmental clearances that are required putting up an API plant, and the government is also very supportive of many companies that they want to do. So there's a big change in the policy itself, the way in which the government is giving good support to those companies who are interested in, manufacturing API. So there's a lot of good things that are happening around this particular piece.
Is the API business more like a cost plus business where you pretty much know that you're playing an arbitrage, or this is a business which again enjoys some degree of pricing power and there is definitely a IP advantage?
Well, I think you said it correctly. More than the IP power, it's also about scale. See, if you're a formulation company at the other end of the world, you also want to deal with reliability, quality, certainty, because one component goes for a toss, the final formulation. So there's a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust in element in procurement of API by many of the foreign companies. So if you build a scale, if you build a good platform, there is enough chance of you sustaining it and getting a reasonable price increases.
Surajit Pals also joins us now. Let me bring him on board. Surajit, why is there so much of interest in the API companies? It started with the great outperformance what DVs and perhaps other API-dominated companies like Loris have exhibited, but now this entire space is getting re-rated. Why is that?
What people earlier thought that the disruption because of Corona and the Chinese production unit getting under maintenance and all sorts of environmental issues were short-term. But after 1 year, we have been facing the issues with the chronic, which sometimes has been a chronic in some of the areas. Plus the government encouragement of some of the critical intermediates as well as API. To be manufactured in that country. So that is why I think there is a whole lot of market, not only in domestic for government encouragement, there is also quite a big market created in international arena, where people wants to have at least second or third link along with the Chinese guy, because Chinese guy operators become very irregular in terms of supply, in terms of commitment. And as far as pharmaceutical is concerned, you need to have a consistent partner who will ensure the timely supply of it. Otherwise, you will face shortage. Not only that, because of shortage, you will pay huge penalty to the distributor. So I think these are the encouragement for global guys, including Indian guys, for Indian.
Right. Vaidheesh, you've seen a lot of cycles in pharma earlier. You think the optimism around this cycle is pretty high, whether you talk about US pricing, demand in India, the profits related to vaccine that people are building in. You think the optimism is at its peak, and that's why, a lot of deals could actually go through?
Well, you are talking about a pandemic situation. So I think the pharma industry done an outstanding job of taking care of the patient. So we need to give a big applause to them. That's a big optimism for the industry itself for having served. There's a huge awareness for health and medicine that are happening. And also there's a lot of mixed change are happening. So immunologicals are coming in big play with COVID coming in. You must have seen people casually using the term of immunological products. In my opinion, the biggest optimism, frankly, is there's a lot of drugs that are coming off patent, off the cliff in relation to biologics. So if at all any company that they will be looking at is to reprioritize their branded generics, unleash the value in the company and take the money, put it back into future of biologics, unlike in China, where India dependent on private entrepreneurs. So the private entrepreneurs should use this, or they are using this opportunity to unlock the value and putting back into the future. I would say the optimism is pretty much valid, and it should be so. I think it's the right time for the pharma industry to continue to put the accelerator on pace.
Right. When we just talk about deals, Vaidheesh, that have happened, you would have seen JB Chemical deal, you would have seen a Sequent Scientific deal, or maybe a 20% sort of a stake pickup in a large company like Piramal Pharma earlier. But of late, we have seen a lot of companies restructuring their business. So whether it's Glenmark, which is offering an IPO via its life sciences business, we've had some small mid-cap companies restructuring select part of their attractive business into a 100% subsidiary. So you think that there would be interest in a lot of other API businesses of current companies, a lot of other biologics business of other companies where they are actually looking to raise funds for higher growth?
Absolutely, Pankaj. I think you described it very clearly. In my opinion, that's the way the companies need to do. They reprioritize their portfolio, and there are lots of brands where it's consuming resources which might be given to some smaller private equity funded players who can take it to the next level, and you take that amount, put it back into the future business. So whatever deal that you are seeing, that you just mentioned about, company going for IPOs, and frankly, in my opinion, it's time that Indian companies should start playing a bigger game of research and development and going into complex generics, going into new drugs, and also in biologics. So I see a positive trend. I would only see more happening with all the big players getting into this arena.
Surajit, how would you look at the next 5 years down the line? A lot of companies will have to do a lot of investments. That is something which cannot be ruled out.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to remain in the industry and you want to be a player to reckon with, investments are very much required. And there are opportunities out there, right? It's not that the investments are going to go casually, because there are certain opportunities and almost end-to-end are available, whether it's a new technology or which is the gap that we talked about, APIs. So frankly, in my opinion, you're going to see a lot of investments coming into the pharma industry.
Right. Surajit, what is your perspective? A lot of R&D cost for a lot of companies will only increase from here on?
I think R&D cost already we have seen, got its peak for last 3 to 5 years. For example, Glenmark is one, Reddy is one, outlet, Sun Pharma was one, Lupin is one. Uh, now the question is that when somebody is putting money for last 3 to 5 years, and now this is the time to pull up those things and try to figure out how much cash they have got in their net. So my perspective is that companies have been facing the challenging period, and they are putting money on complex injectables, complex other medicines, non-injectable products, biologics or biosimilars. Some guys are also putting money in NC, buying NC molecule like Sun Pharma or their own house like Glenmark. As of now, we haven't gone any breakthrough, similar kind of things in terms of which would give you huge potential. But we think is that it may not happen something like 12 to 15% R&D cost of sales. It could be stabilized between 8 to 10% on an average to maintain the balance of their EBITDA margin to such extent. The biggest worry, as you say, valuation of whether it is peak or not. I believe pharma companies, investors will keep an eye on their earnings growth, on their potential. If that could not match their expectation, we say with the valuation of something like which used to be 22 to 23, and now it has become normal, it's 25 to 30, and for guys it is like 35 to 48 degrees and all. So if we are not able to, at par with ROC, at par with maintaining margin, at par with earnings growth or top line, then there will be definitely people will have a second thought about those, related. Otherwise, till that time, pharma will continue to buzz in.
Right. Vaidheesh, two things. One, we have discussed about the deal, how the deal pipeline is looking in. Now, the second thing, when I just look at the vaccine news, every other company wants to make vaccine, every other company wants to do a tie-up. But, some are RNA technology, some are other technology. You think execution will be difficult? It's not as easy if just somebody gives you a formula, you can make the vaccine and roll it out quickly. So execution over the next 6 months, which company can do effectively, increase production when needed. All of these things are something which, would actually differentiate two vaccine players.
Yeah, so Pankaj, you're an expert in the life science, so obviously you have picked up a lot of the stuff what you just mentioned. So you're right. Unlike typical drug manufacturing, vaccine manufacturing is not as not simple, but it's not equivalent to the drug. So you are right. Execution is going to be critical. There are companies who have what it takes to do it. They're all jumping into the fray. It'll take time. And the critical element is in how well you're going to, because for some, this is new. Some people are jumping in as a new manufacturer in the vaccine platform because they have an experience in specialties. So I tend to agree. It depends on how well somebody is going to execute. It is not going to be a slam dunk.
Right. Surajit, how would you look at the vaccine opportunity? A lot of companies are talking about vaccine, what's happening over there. How would you look at it with the sort of valuations that are already built in for some of the names?
See, there are two sides to look into it. Is that, first of all, as you are talking about RNA technology or DNA technology, given that Indian companies have a long history of manufacturing vaccine, no matter which technology you use, they have quite a good knowledge of chemistry and they can do it easily if you give them technology. We have 16 vaccine manufacturing plants in India. And I think it is unfortunate that our country is facing this kind of crisis. From perspective, something like had we have been more active in terms of engaging other plants which is not into the vaccine race of those vaccine plants, something like say Shanta or something like Danisha Biotech from very beginning, we would not be facing this kind of crisis. They would have manufactured on behalf of the Covishield or Covaxin Corporation. Now the point is, when we are talking about this vaccine market for the next 6 to 8 months, which you'll be utilizing, because currently which we are around 40 crore dosages, and say, but we require around 180 to 190 crore dosages. So in that case, there will be a lot of things to be added. But the point is that we are also allowing the guys. So if we are riders, we are taking into consideration, we have 5 guys. There are another 4-5 guys which could make an entry in India with indemnity costs and all these things are great. Question is that big chunk of the population is waiting for this vaccine at a free of cost. The private market is not that big, and most of the private market, if I'm not mistaken, is already been covered by Covishield or Apollo with the vaccine program and all these things. The guys which are still waiting with a family size of 4 or 5 or 6, they are waiting for government program. And government program does not allow company to make not more than 25%. So it will be very tough call, whether company will be getting around 70 to 80 or 85% kind of margin at EBITDA level in private market. That is only 25%. And how hurry is government to allow people to get into private market, this company to release their product in private market, and how much they will take 75% or more to their government program. So I think that is one of the crucial issues. Another issue is that whether government will allow them to go for export market. There is a talk in some places in industry level. People might be expecting, or companies are expecting, October onwards there might be opening of export area to be supplied to Africa and all other less developed countries. But whether we have the similar kind of capacity to cover and then supply to others, that is a question. So it is not all rosy. It's a really tough call, because you don't know how much will government will allow to private market and how much people can afford to go for that. Because already it is between 800 to 1200. If foreign guys are coming into picture, it will not less than, anything less than 2000 per dose. So 2 dose means 4000. In a family like 5, or so you are spending 20,000. Now just compare the pathetic data of India have the health insurance. Now considering that, how much people will be ready to spend 20,000 every year for the vaccine? That is the area to think of.
Right, Surajit, thanks so much. Right, Surajit, thank you so much for taking out time for us. A Vaidheesh, always good to get perspective from you. That was a discussion on the pharma pack. On that note, we're taking a break, leaving you with 2 strong listing. Clean Energy listed at a premium of 100%. GR Infra also listed pretty well. Now both are trying to stabilize and do a price discovery. Taking a break, coming back quickly.